with a few etiquette remarks to start with. You noticed that we are already recording. We do that for all sessions in plenary and we'll upload it on the platform website afterwards. Please keep your mic muted, but you're invited and encouraged to keep your camera on at all times. The webinar has some interactive elements, and you can also ask questions either by raising your hand and using the mic, or but also by using the chat. We will follow the chat. Before we start, before we dive into the first module, allow me to say a few words about the Swiss NGO-DRR platform. The platform was founded in 2011 by 7 Swiss-based non-governmental organizations. Since then, it has grown to a network of 20 organizations to date. And the goal of the collaboration is to foster a common understanding on how to best integrate disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation into programs and projects. Ultimately, we aim to increase the resilience of the communities we work for with our projects. The work of the platform is organized along 3 working areas. We support each other through learning and exchange, for instance, by organizing learning events, workshops, and webinars like the one today. We give conceptual support and we engage in advocacy and policy dialogue to achieve structural changes in risk management. The Swiss NGO platform is supported by and works closely with SDC, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. But beyond SDC, we also work with other Swiss and international agencies and networks. So I have to say, despite the glitch, I'm sorry, I am really excited to embark on this learning journey with you all. The learning journey consists of 2 parts. The first part focuses on hazard assessment and has the objective to enhance our capacity as practitioners so we can independently conduct a hazard assessment and know how to retrieve airborne data. It consists of 5 webinars that take place from March to May. The second part focuses on risk assessment and cost-benefit analysis with 3 webinars that will take place in the beginning of 2024. In June or July, we plan a field day on hazard assessment. The date still needs to be fixed. This will be a great opportunity for those of us who are based in or happen to be in Switzerland to practice and consolidate the learnings of the webinar series. We will keep you updated. And I stop here. You have certainly noted that we have won 2 great resource persons for this learning journey, Andrea Blindenbacher and Georg Heim. They are both experts in their respective topics. And it is my pleasure now to introduce to Georg Heim, the expert in charge of today's webinar. Georg is a geomorphologist by background with a Master of Science in Geography. He has extensive experience in hazard and risk assessments, as well as the planning and implementation of mitigation measures, among other. Some of you know that Georg is also a former colleague of mine at the Swiss Red Cross. Please, Georg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tony. I would like to share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see the first slide. It's really a big pleasure to have you here in this meeting. As Tony mentioned, I try to explain you some hopefully practical aspects, and then if you have questions, don't hesitate to use the chat or even to use the microphone so we can talk to each other. There will be 4 exercises during this presentation, which will have a duration of almost 2 hours of conduct. So the goal is that you know how to depict hazardous areas, to elaborate the hazard map, and to know where to get satellite data, which will be part of another learning journey this year, as Tony mentioned, and also the handling of drones. Sure, the handling of drones will be more during the field day, where everybody who will join can use and handle the drone. The elaboration of hazard map is mandatory to quantify and define critical sites in terrain, to know where possible damages can occur, to quantify damages. And when you are planning mitigation measures, that means structural mitigation measures or even organizational mitigation measures. Both have costs. So you need to do a cost-benefit analysis to justify your investments. So the hazard assessment and the risk assessment and planification of mitigation measures is this topics we would like to share with you. When we talk about hazards, there are different types of hazards. There are the meteorological ones, that means droughts, storms, heat waves. There are geological hazards like earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. And there are gravitational hazards, all hazards related to gravity. That means flooding, landslides, rockfall, snow avalanches. And during this learning journey, we have to focus on 2 of the hazards, which are gravitational hazards. That means flooding, which is probably the most the process that occurs in many of your areas, and also landslides, which will be in another learning journey during this year. When we talk about these gravitational hazards, I have some videos that you can use for your own presentations in other opportunities. So we will focus on floods. This one, Marcela, you know it very well. The floods in northern Chile a couple of years ago that destroyed several villages, transported, drifted houses, entire houses away. So this kind of process we would like to focus during the journey from today. Some aspects from debris flows we will touch as well. You see here the debris flow that in South Portugal 4 years ago, a mix of water and sediments, sometimes woody material that can cause damages. Other ones like landslides, we will discuss, as I mentioned before, in another learning journey. Normally there are small packages, small volumes of material, soil, and debris that can slide down. Even if it's a small volume, the energy are very high.
They are loud. It's very loud.
Georg.
It's very loud.
Yes,
Yeah.
we couldn't hear your voice at all. The past 2
Okay.
videos.
I try to reduce the volume, sorry. I'm not sure if it works. Okay, we'll focus on flooding. And as an introduction, I would like to present you 2 examples of events that occurred in South America. And I would like to ask you afterwards, if you were a World Bank official and you would have money to mitigate those risks, but you just have money to mitigate in one of the two examples I will present you, where would you invest your money? In the first or in the second example, and you have to justify your decision. You have to look for arguments why you will invest in one of the two examples. Your answers will we need in the learning journey when we talk about risks and cost-benefit analysis. So please take attention of the arguments that I will use during this presentation of the two examples. The first of them is close to Lima in Peru, in a village called Chosica, mountainous area. You can see here a very small catchment, smaller than 1 kilometer square, and its cone is populated, a dense population there. Sorry. As you can see here, it's the same place. On the upper left, you can see the density of housings. You can see there are brick houses, concrete houses. And in 2015, a debris flow event occurred, and I will activate this video. I'm not sure if it's as loud as the video before. For that, I'm sorry for that. We'll check it out. I hope it's not so loud as before. So this is a very granular low velocity but high intensity
We cannot
more than
hear
100
you.
people died. How was it, the volume?
The same as before. So maybe when you could try to switch off the volume completely when you show the videos, or
Maybe.
not talk during the videos, because both
Yeah.
is not possible.
Thank you for this observation. Okay, so the day afterwards, people restarted to rebuild the houses on the same place. There is still a lot of material, a lot of sediments in the catchment that can be triggered by precipitation events. So it wasn't the last event that occurred. This is the affected area. You can see the catchment on the upper side, and in the red polygon, you can see the affected area. The second event is as well in South America, in Bolivia, in a city called Cochabamba, also a mountainous area. You can see in red the catchment, and in blue is the main stream, the channel of this catchment. You can see a dense population as well, more people living here than in the other example. And in 3rd of March 2018, a debris flow event occurred in this catchment. You can see here one of the 3 searches during this event, the search during the evening. In this event, 4 people died. More than 200 houses were affected or destroyed. You can see another search from the same event. The 3 searches occurred during 2 hours, probably. I'm not sure about. It was even not the first time that a debris flow event occurred. On the left side, you can see the area which was covered by the debris flow. On the right side, you can see mapped areas from earlier events. That means there was an event in 2001, an event in 1992, an event in 1984. So several events occurred. The debris flow was triggered by a huge landslide in the upper part of the catchment. But just about 5% of this landslide has been activated. So there's still 95% of the landslide area is still in the catchment and could be triggered and causing new events in the future. In both examples, authorities are thinking about mitigation measures. We are talking in Chosica, there already have been built mitigation measures for $7 million of dollars. In that catchment from Cochabamba, they are thinking about $1.5 million to build retention dams, but it's not realized. They are still thinking about that. The problem is that in the catchment from the first example, the lifespan of the mitigation measures they installed is just a few years. Then the mitigation will be without function. So these are the two examples I wanted to explain you, to show you. Example 1 in Peru, example 2 in Bolivia, and I'm sure you have your preferences where you would invest your money if you were a World Bank responsible person. So Nora will split you into groups of 6 persons per group, and I would like that you list your arguments. I will send you a link in the chat where you can fill out your arguments. You can see a lot of slides in this link I will send you, and just choose your group number where you can fill out your arguments. There will be a duration of about 10 minutes, and then we will come back and to discuss your arguments. So I try to copy the link to this PowerPoint slides. It should be arrived. And then Nora, is that okay for you that you split in groups?
Yes, I have now 6 rooms, and I will open them when you give me the okay. Please make sure you open the link first. You have the working documents, and you will see on the top of your room a room number, and you will be brought back automatically after 10 minutes. Is that right, Georg?
Yeah, that's right.
So see you in 10 minutes.
See you then. Okay, we are back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Thank you, Marcela.
Yeah.
I took the opportunity to look into each group about the arguments you mentioned, and I see it's absolutely great. These are all our needed aspects. We need to elaborate a hazard map and also a risk analysis, and to realize in the future our cost-benefit analysis. I would just like to pick out some of your arguments. When we begin with the group 1, for example, you mention in Bolivia a wider area is affected. That means the extent of of areas that could be affected by flooding, by debris flows. So this is one of the core aspects of the hazard map. I think we are all we all agree. And it's mentioned, like, just every group mentioned the quantity of persons exposed, and not just the persons, but also the objects like housing, like infrastructure exposed. So this is the second aspect for the hazard mapping. When we go, for example, to group 2, there is as well frequency of events is mentioned, and interesting, the vulnerability is mentioned. Houses look a bit more vulnerable. That means the physical vulnerability of houses, for sure. If the house is made by a brick house, the stability is different related to a concrete house, for example. This is an important aspect for our risk assessment to define what are the damages, qualitatively, but also quantitative. How big are the damages? State may have less resource to invest in DRR. That is related to the social vulnerability of the affected people. So this is another aspect related to the risk analysis that we will touch in a future session. Group 3 mentioned the possibility of measures. Where was it? Frequency of hazardous events. Yeah, possibility of relocation was not identified. Well, I think we all agree this is the last options we always take, the relocation of people, because normally it doesn't work. But if there aren't any other options, we have to think about. But so group 3 thinking of the possibility of measures that could be used. Economic condition of vulnerable people, as well as the aspect of social vulnerability of persons, a very important aspect in the area where we are working. Yeah, I will not mention all the criteria, but to focus on some of them. Yeah, in somewhere in group 4 was mentioned the energy of the events. Where was that? Criteria how frequently it's likely to happen, how much damage is it likely to cause? In the second example, the problem looks recurrent and with high impact. I don't know if you mentioned, if you wanted to mention impact in related to energy of the debris flow event or of the flooding. So it depends if it's just velocity, very low velocity of the inundation and low flow height. It's another aspect if you consider it with debris flow event, which has high velocity and high flow height. So this is the other aspects related to hazard assessment. You see, we have mixed aspects from hazard assessment and of possible damage. That means risk assessment. As well, for example, group 6 mentioned the frequency of events. And in the other groups, the arguments were repeated. So I'm really happy to see that we covered the aspects I would like to show you. I put in mute all the videos so to protect your ears. Yeah, for decision making, I wrote it here. We need to have information about the hazard level. We need to have information about possible damages, and that was not mentioned, or I couldn't find it in your arguments, the costs of the measures. We have limited resources, and we have to invest the limited funds where the most benefit it can cost. Okay, when we focus on this hazard level, I would like to show you an aerial photo taken by drone. It's in the Honduran, in Honduras. You see in blue, the blue lines representing the streams, from left to right, the stream direction, the riverbed, and you have two affluents came from up to in down direction. And in this area, we mapped the hazards. This is the final product of a hazard map. You see 3 colors: yellow, blue, red. Colors could be different countries, but in that case, we used the colors we are using normally in Switzerland and in other countries as well. And you see some indices. That means EN and the number between 1 and 9. So what could that mean? For sure, it shows us the covered area where future floods can occur. And it shows us different colors. So I would like to explain you how to read the hazard map. That's the final product we would like to reach in this and in the next learning journey, and also in the field during the field day. I marked also the exposed houses, buildings. And these 3 colors and the numbers from 1 to 9 are indicated the methodological in this matrix 3 per 3. The hazard map considers frequency of events, as you mentioned before in your exercise, and one of the group mentioned as well the intensity of the flooding event in different sections of this map we are visiting in the lower part of the image. So just to explain you, we have 3 groups regarding the frequency. Events that can occur very frequently, that means every year until every 4 or 5 years. So normally people has experienced this kind of event several times. On the other hand, we have in the middle column areas in this photo where flooding will be just during rare events. That means events that can occur every 20, 30 years. It's generational event. And there are areas in this hazard map where flooding just occur in an extreme event with which are extremely rare. That means normally we are considering an event that can occur every 100 years. So really an extremely event. So depending on frequency, we have for the frequent event areas designed where we mark a 3, a 6, or a 9, or for extremely events 1, 4, or 7 as indexes. So 3, 6, 9, or 1, 4, 7, or 2, 5, 8 depends on the intensity in this section of the hazard map. When we take, for example, the riverbed, which is marked here in red, it takes the number EN for inundation, 9. When we check the matrix, we can see 9 is here on the upper side. That means in this area with a high frequency, quite every year, high intensities of floods can occur. And it's obvious in the channel, within the channel itself, where you have each year you have high intensities where normally there aren't any objects that could suffer damages. But in the riverbed, we have high frequency, high intensity. And on the right side, I give you an example what means high intensity. That means, as you can see in the signs, even houses can be destroyed because of the floods, and people will die if they are during the event in this area. On the other side, for medium intensities, adult people could resist the flood, but children normally they are driven away and can die. Normally, housing can stand the flood, and for low intensity is where, well, areas are affected, but flow heights until your knees, low velocity. So normally enclosing traffic can go on, but it can cause damages as well. So these are the three classes of intensity, and I explain you also the frequency. So our challenge is to map all the areas of our area of interest to distinguish the hazards regarding frequency and intensity. So the challenge will be what are the working steps to get this final product, this hazard map, and that's what we will go step by step. I thought we could make another exercise where you have to classify intensities with these three groups of intensities. You see on the left side the three groups: high intensity, and the upper side medium and low intensity, and you have about 10 pictures. Two of them, like this one here, is a video from Germany. You see also here on the upper side on the right, you see a video from Haiti. Just click on this video to see them. The other ones are just photos, and ask you to classify these photos and videos, to put it in order, and you can use the same link as you used before. You are in the same group. So Nora will put you in the same group. It's maximum 10 minutes, and then we'll come back to this to the plenary. So you can find in the chat the link that you could use. Do you have any questions before going into groups? Okay, great. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, I think we're all back. So I take the opportunity to share with you results. Maybe now starting with from the last group to the first group. We have in line in the three classes of intensity. We can see on the lower part this flooding in Santiago. It's almost possible to see the ground. So the flow height is not maybe 20 centimeters. That's not that much. So cars could circulate as well. In the picture in the middle, people are not at risk to be driven away. And below image, depending where you are. In some parts, the intensity is low, maybe in this middle part where the street is passing, or even the river, intensity will be middle or high. When we see the video from Haiti, you can see the car which is the driver is in the car, so he's trying to move its car itself, so he's really at risk, but the car was not driven away. So I see it as you see it as well. It's a mid intensity is middle. And we have, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have this example from Germany where car has been driven away. In that picture, we cannot see destroyed houses, but intensity quite, well, for me, it would be clear. I would put it in high intensity, because if I would stay here, even I could hold on a tree, I would be driven away. Which group is this? I switched the group, sorry. Yeah, we were here. Yeah, you're right. High intensity on the upper right. High intensity as well for this house is here. We can see white water. That means high velocity of the flow. The same here in this situation. And we can see mid intensity. Here, this photo here, I'm not really sure. It depends where you stand. On the right side or in the middle, there's probably medium intensity, but on the left side is sure it will be high intensity. But I can see you understood very well the classification of the intensities in that slide group 5. I totally agree. Yes, the same. This group 3 mentioned that the video in Haiti is high intensity. I would reclass it to mid intensity. And as well in the middle part, this photo here, it seems for me, as you can see, the white water, and I think as well flow height will be difficult to say, maybe 1 meter, a little bit less maybe. I consider it like high intensity, but yeah, we're not really sure about. Group 2. Maybe one person from group 2. Can you explain me why you put this photo here on the upper left into high intensity? What did you think when you class it into high intensity?
No, Georg, we used like some spot with colors. The yellow one are like low, the blue medium, and the high red.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. Yeah, I can see it. I agree totally. This one, as we talked before, depends where you are. Low intensity, you can see a little bit white water, could be mid or low intensity. Here we totally agree. Yeah, it looks great. So I think it's understood this classification of intensities. Is it an important aspect to go further on with hazard mapping? I switch to the presentation where we are back to these photos here. So for knowing the hazard level, we need the hazard mapping, we need to know which kind of hazardous process we are talking about. Sure, flooding in this case. The flooded areas has to be defined in the working steps we will see in the next slides. The event frequency in the future has to be defined as well, and the intensity, what we talked about. As I mentioned, this is the final product of the hazard mapping depending where you are working. If you are working in a rural area, probably difficult to communicate those classes from 1 to 9. Maybe in that case, it will be easier just to show them the 3 colors, yellow, blue and red. Don't speak about 1 to 9 because probably it's too complicated depending on where you are working. But these 3 colors have a signification for land use planning. And the hazard map, one of the reasons we use hazard maps is for the land use planning, to know where we can construct new buildings or where new land use. And the signification, I can, yeah, it's not the whole screen that I can share. Okay. The red areas means it's prohibited to build new buildings or to use the area for any kind of land use because it's too frequent the events or too intensive the events that can occur the flood. blue areas, the hazard level is less. It means new buildings. If you can avoid these areas, much better. If not, new buildings or new land use can be done, but only with protection measures. And the yellow class, which is hidden in my presentation, that means it is an area that can be flooded, but just with low intensities or with low frequencies. These are areas just for information. Here in yellow areas, you don't have any restrictions. Only if you are planning, for example, health centers or schools or buildings or land use where possibility of high damages are given, you should try to avoid also areas, yellow areas. But normally it's just an information. You could be affected, but you will not die, and you won't suffer huge damages. So this is the recommended classification that often is used in Europe, in different countries, in some countries in South America as well, depending where we are working. This is one recommendation how to classify the hazard levels. So there is a website that I would like to share with you the access. You see the axis on the lower part of this of the screen. This is the link to the Red Cross website where you can download the instructions to follow each working steps to get to the hazard map. It's starting with step 1, how to build an event register, which is for many of you probably known because it's related, similar like some aspects of the VCA. The second step is the silent witnesses. And the third point is the technical analysis, where we will spend a little bit time to know also some technical analysis. So when I check the hour, it's we can do a break because afterwards we will follow the working steps to elaborate hazard maps for 10 minutes from now. And please be back after 10 minutes to start with these 3 steps. Okay, I think we are back. Yeah, 10 minutes already passed. So I sharing the screen and will go to the 3 steps I mentioned before to the elaboration of the hazard map. The first point, the event register, I will passing very fast because I think for most of you, this working step is known. It's an easy one, but it's a very important one. The second one, some of you probably know the working step of silent witnesses. And the third one, you will not know because it's a new tool I would like to share with you. The event register is the first pillar we use. And as I mentioned, it's quite similar. We try to beam a photo, an aerial photo, Google Earth or taken by drone to a white wall. We are inviting people, mostly elderly people living a long time in the area where we would like to elaborate our hazard map. Or just one person or several person start to mark the events that occurred in earlier events. In that case, it's a valley in Switzerland where we had 2 events in the last decade, and this person here is marking the flooded area during these 2 events. Each event takes its own color with different markers. And you as an interviewer can also looking for other information than just the flooded area. asking, for example, what was the flow depth in different areas of this of the flooded sectors? What was the flow velocity? Could you run as fast as the water flew? What was the reason of the flooding? Was it long during precipitation or just a very short one? Was it a clocking due to drifted wood? This information are very important for the scenarios we are building for hazard mapping. In the link that I put in the chat, it's the same link we saw before for this methodological guideline from the Swiss Red Cross. You'll find also a form, as you see in the right side, where you find questions you could make to the interviewed person and also register and document what they are telling you. You fill out a form per event. So each event has its own form that you have to fill out. And when you have photos from earlier events, that helps a lot. You can also, additionally to the beamed photo, go to terrain with the people and they will show you the affected areas, which takes more time, but it can be useful as well, depending where you are working and which conditions you are working. I won't spend much time in this first working step because, as I mentioned, it's not that complicated. But if you would like to ask some points, you can put it in the chat or raise your hands. And Nora, if I can't see it because I haven't activated the Teams windows, you can inform me, please, if there are any questions. The second
Georg.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, there is one person raising his hands. Nantenaina, Michael.
Michael, okay, just go on, Michael. We cannot hear you. Yeah, where we.
The question is where we can find that report on the website.
Okay, so I just switch shortly to the website and show you where you can find it. This is the website. When you scroll a little bit down, you have two blocks, two themes. The first one is Guide for Natural Hazard Analysis. The other one is Guide for Risk and Cost Benefit Analysis. So we are talking about the first guide. You click it and then you are entering this site here, where for different natural hazard processes like debris flow, flood, landslide, and rockfall, you'll find a PDF where all the working steps are described to build the hazard map. For some of these processes, like debris flow, there is a minimal standard for those who are not really familiar with this process. For those who are more advanced, can use the advanced standard. For rockfall and landslide, there are both standards in one PDF. For flood, there are two standards, minimal and advanced standard. And on the right side, you find, and in these annexes, you'll find this Stormy form. So when you open this PDF, so you'll get what I mentioned before. This is the form you're asking for, Michael. Yeah, you can ask all the questions or make it much shorter if you want. These are what we thought are the most important questions we have to answer. Is that okay for you, Michael?
His microphone does not work. I will answer at his place, as he has written in the chat that this is okay.
Okay, so just go on. If there are any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. Okay, for silent witnesses, silent because they are evident, but they can't speak. For example, at the same area where we saw this woman depicting the flooded area, we see that this was a bridge, and the bridge has been flooded, destroyed. So it's obvious that this is a silent witness. But we see also in the pillar here that drifted wood has been blocked, glocking. That means that wood can be an important aspect during future events that we have to consider as well. During the field day, as I mentioned in earlier slides, we'll find a lot of those silent witnesses. Some of them are easy to find, others are quite difficult. This one is also an easy one. You see damaged infrastructure in this bridge. So that means the water level reached until the lower part of the bridge. There are others a little bit more difficult to recognize, to see, like this one. This is a silent witness that you have to go a little bit closer. You see
I would say this is a slip, Georg.
Yeah, for example. I'm not sure what it is, but
yeah,
Just
yeah,
cloth.
this is
something like that, huh?
rubbish. Could be any kind of rubbish that we find on this branch. We see on the left part as well this tree which has two colors. In the lower part, the tree is gray. In the upper part, it is brown, because the lower part was covered or affected by sediments during the flooding event. It has more or less the same altitude as the rubbish here. So that shows us that water level reached this altitude in earlier events. Here, the vegetation already, we have succession of vegetation. So probably this event takes some years, probably. So we go ahead in terrain and look for other signs, other silent witnesses. People in terrain like to do this exercise because it's simple and very helpful. So then once we have done both working steps, the event cadastre and the silent witnesses, both of them you should reach to the same conclusion. If this is the case, you know that you're on the right way to depict and define the hazardous areas. On both sides of the river, in mountainous areas, you'll have silent witnesses in the hill slopes. For example, you see cracks in the in terrain. That means this lower part has been moved, so a landslide can occur and enter to the channel and to block the channel and to create a breakout of the stream. On the right side as well, you see the tension of roots. That means it's an active process, of a sliding process that often you can see in terrain. In the lower part, you see also cracks in terrain, and what you can see in these photos is the torrent, which is affected by this or will be affected during the next event. So landslide in interaction with flooding in that case in mountainous areas is important to consider for the scenario building. As I see that time is running, I think we'll jump the next group work, or to make it a little bit different in the manner that you can activate or raise your hand or activate your microphone to give answer to these questions. I will introduce this slide. And it is,
Georg.
Yeah.
I'm rudely interrupting you because I have a question in the chat that I think that belongs very well to the silent witnesses. Ganashyam from Nepal asked, for which hazards does the is the silent witness appropriate? Will it have a relevant tool for all? Will it be a relevant tool for all hazards?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this question. You can use this working step silent witness for all kind of gravitational processes. That means heat waves will be difficult, but gravitational processes like floods, debris flow, rockfall, landslides, sometimes snow avalanches as well, you will find silent witnesses. For example, for rockfall, it's evident. You see the stones, blocks, boulders that fell down on a street or in a field, and you can also see if in the edges of the stone the color is changing. So that means some parts of the boulder has been affected, and you can discover the more or less the age of this rockfall event, if it's a very old one or it's an event that occurred just a few years ago. For debris flow events, you will find a lot of silent witnesses. This is quite interesting to look for them, to find them. For flooding, it's a little bit more difficult, depending if there has been rubbish transported. As we saw in the slide before, you can see those silent witnesses, sometimes sediment cover, but it's more difficult. Landslides, you will find a lot of silent witnesses. So you can, if you would like, we can also spend time in the next learning journeys to make an exercise with other silent witnesses for other processes to make you familiar with it. In that learning journey, I haven't prepared it all yet, but we can do that afterwards if you would like. Is that okay for you? This answer? Okay, so we'll go on. Yeah, I was introducing this slide. It's the way down from La Paz in Bolivia to the Bolivian jungle in Rurrenabaque. What you see here is a road along the river, passing through these buildings and going away to the Amazonia. Authorities in 2021 decided to evacuate these buildings because they were afraid of debris flow event from this small value marked with this blue arrow. So the local authorities built or informed about the evacuation route, which was along this black line about the road, to go to a safer place in outside of this light. Thinking about silent witnesses, what is your opinion about the evacuation route? Do you agree? Maybe you don't agree. Which route would you take, and where could be your safe place to evacuate those people? I just go to the chat to see if there are some hand raised that could give us some answers. Oh, Nora, maybe you can help me with that so I can share the screen where we can see the picture.
I can help you with that, please. just raise your hands or just open the mic and say something. You know, we're 35. That's okay. Who would like to? Okay, I see there. Sulfia Kadairova, I hope I said it the right way.
Almost
Please go
there.
ahead.
Hi.
Okay,
Hi,
good.
it's Sulia. You
Zulia,
can
okay.
Sulia, exactly. And yes, I can see that there is a road on both sides from the settlement, and you can see the signs of the landslides on along the both roads. So I believe both of them may not be that secure for evacuation, especially during the heavy precipitation period and coming along with this disaster event. So I'm not sure which route I would select, but both of them seems not to be very safe. Those which are available right now.
Sulia, where would you evacuate this person?
Probably I would build a bridge from the settlement to other side of the river to the green zone.
Okay, that you should do before the event, but you would go to the other side of the river.
Yeah,
because
we can see it's untouched and it doesn't have any signs of erosions or any kind of silent evidences, yes, which we discussed right now.
Okay. Thank you, Sulia. I would like to show you what happened in this area during this event 2021. It was just here in this area here. So people started to evacuate themselves, and this is with, no, you won't hear probably the sound. You see here the street, and the street is covered by this landslide where trucks intend to remove sediments, but people are still evacuating. So the event that occurred was that one here. During evacuation, a landslide has been activated, and in this event, 20 persons died. I'm sorry to show you this video, but I think it's important to show you that. Two information: hazard mapping hasn't been done, so the hazard was not known by authorities. And the other information I would like to share with you: high vegetation cover doesn't give you security to avoid landslides. If you have shallow landslides, soil vegetation can help you to avoid landslide. But if it's a high, the volume are very big for landslides, the vegetation cover won't help you. So this is not a fake hazard map down on desktop, but just to give you the information that if the hazardous areas would have been mapped, probably the authorities would have looked for other evacuation routes. So as you see, the hazard map is an instrument for land use planning, for evacuation plans, for any kind of planification to mitigate the risks. Okay, just very few insights in these first two working steps, and now to use the last 15 minutes to start with the technical assessment that we will go on in the next learning journey. You know this photo, as many of you classified it as high intensity. If you additionally to the first two pillars, working steps, you decide to do a technical analysis for flooding, you have to know what is the discharge, depending on of the scenarios you are considering. You maybe remember the matrix 3 per 3, where we had the intensity and the frequency. This classically, you are choosing 3 scenarios, 3 return periods of future events that can occur. For each scenario, we have to define the discharge. And the important information from the discharge is the maximum, the peak flow of an event. And that's what's representing this graph here, where it's a little small maybe for you on the screen. You see caudal is written in Spanish. This is the discharge in meter cube per second. That means 1,000 liter per second. And on the horizontal, you see the time spending during the event. The 3 curves represents the scenarios. A 5-yearly scenario, that means this discharge can occur every 5, more or less every 5 years. The other one every 20 years, and the last one is an extremely event that can occur more or less every 100 years. So once we know the discharge, we can afterwards look if this peak flow will be within the channel, or if there are outbreaks, that means floods. But the first step is in this technical analysis is to find the peak flow. And I see as time is running, I wanted to do an exercise. What are the factors we have to know to define peak flows or the discharge? Maybe we can use the same manner as before, that maybe one person can raise his hand and we can hear what she is meaning about which kind of information we need to define the discharge.
Yeah, okay, we have somebody. Niraj Acharya.
Yeah, right.
Okay, good. Please go ahead.
I think a couple of factors are important to look after while calculating the peak flow. The first one is obviously the catchment area. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first one is obviously the catchment area. The shape of the catchment area is also important. The type of the soil, the vegetation, of course, the intensity of the rainfall. So I think these are the points to be considered to calculate the peak flow.
Okay. I try to repeat. You mentioned catchment area.
Yeah.
Oh, I see there is Nirai Acharya.
Yeah,
Can you
he just
aggregate
asked.
other aspects?
Okay. I said catchment area. I mean, what is the size of the catch? The size of the catchment area, the kilometer square or whatever, the square mile, and the shape of the catchment area. The steeper the shape, the higher would be the runoff.
The
Also the soil
steepness.
type.
Okay.
Yeah. Also the soil type. If the soil is porous, so then the runoff will be small. If the soil is clayey or the fine soil, the runoff will be greater. And also the vegetation cover in the catchment area, the intensity of the rainfall, the duration of the rainfall.
Thank you, Nirai. Where do you come from?
I'm from Helvetas, Nepal.
In Nepal, you mentioned the precipitation. Do you have precipitation measurements in your area where you're working?
Yeah. There are some meteorological stations which measure the precipitation.
Okay. You are absolutely right with the factors you mentioned as catchment area, steepness of the area, soil type, intensity of rainfall, land use. In many counties where we are working, there aren't any, for example, there aren't any information on precipitation, statistical precipitation data. So that's the reason why many of in our projects we are reducing the working steps for hazard assessment on event cadastre. In some projects we are considering silent witness as well, but normally we don't consider technical approaches as we don't have this database. But in fact, the information exists, and I would like to show you some of the aspects you mentioned, Nirai, because we don't have the time to treat all of them. That will be part of the next learning journey. But when we go to precipitation, there are satellite data where Andrea Blindenbacher will also focus on in another learning journey. What I like very much is it's a little bit it's like a game, but I would like to show you that this is a real-time representation of satellites that are turning in the space. You see different colors that mean all the red dots are satellites, and well, the blue one is rubbish, anthropogenic rubbish. And the gray one are natural particles of meteorites, and the yellow one are undefined objects. So when we, for example, go in to Spain or anywhere else, you can click on this satellite. You see this is Starlink from Elon Musk. You see the altitude, you see the velocity and the period to make one round around the world. So you see we are all the time, we are observed in any kind of the world. And this information, many of them are free of charge to download those data. And for this technical analysis, we would like to use those data. As I mentioned before, Andrea Blindenbach will go more in detail in another learning journey, but I would like to show you one of the information we need. And this is...
Georg, can I just rudely interrupt you again, because we have two more hands or questions?
Sure.
Would it be okay to get those questions before we go to Augur? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. One is Ganashyam. He put something in the chat. He said, I think one factor is also the slope of the riverbed.
Yes. This is Ganashyam, this is a hydraulic aspect that we have to consider as well. It's not that much a criteria to define the peak flow. It is also an aspect to define the peak flow, but it's not a main factor. But it will be a main factor to define where the breakouts along the river are. Thank you for this comment. We will consider it as well.
And,
are there other?
Jana Junghart from Helvetas, she also raised her hand, but she took it down, I think. But you still have the question, right, Jana?
Yes, but it was in relation to factors. So I think we can continue later. Maybe we have a chance to dig deeper into it later or next time. Fine.
Thanks, Jana. So I would like to show you a tool which has been elaborated during the last 2 years, financed by SDC, with the help with the Swiss Red Cross and the University of Bern, called Augur. Augur is a tool to define peak flows, and it gathers the satellite data for the precipitation. You see the link that you could use afterwards. I try to connect me to Augur, and yes, this is right, but I wanted to look at this one here. Okay. This is the entry website from Augur. Augur is a name from an elderly Greece person. It doesn't matter the name of it doesn't have any relevance, the name Augur, but the content is relevant. It's free of charge. You can access it whenever you want. It has two components. The first is, or three, but we will handle the first two here. It has this satellite data about the precipitation. These are chirps. It's from the chirps data set. I won't go to detail, but you can go wherever you want on the globe and just push your button in a specific area and it shows you statistical data about the precipitation on the left side with these columns. It shows you the maximum daily precipitation for a 100-yearly event. That means 217 millimeter per day as extreme precipitation event. You see also for events which are more frequently, for a 10-year event, the precipitation is less. The expected daily maximum precipitation. Behind you see another bar, which is with this other showed in blue. This is the precipitation considering climate effect. The climate change effect. Considering the report IPCC, the last one, you can choose your climate signal 2030, 50 or 90, and it shows you the expected maximum daily precipitation. Sure, in this data set, they are not absolutely precise, but this precipitation are calculated by the satellites and calibrated by meteorologic stations, more than 100,000 around the globe. So we are considering that they are useful for the hazard assessment or for the definition of peak flows. You can also look for your the city you are living. I go to Zurich, and it shows me directly the precipitation from this area. This is one of the results that you can, or the information you can gather from Augur. The other one is the discharge tool, and the discharge tool includes the precipitation information. And sorry for running now, as I'm looking for we already done with the presentation, but in the next learning journey, we will realize several exercises to define peak flows, and it's are all the factors that have been mentioned before: catchment area, soil type, precipitation, land use, steepness of the catchment. We will use these factors in this tool. Just for maybe finishing one aspect from Augur, you see here a Google Earth image. You can also switch to other kind of maps, street map or different maps. I see we are in Spanish, so we have to switch to English. Okay. So you can go with your mouse to your point of interest. Looking, for example, wherever you want to go. An urban area, maybe here in that area. And you can put your mouse on the point of interest. Sometimes during presentation, it won't work and no idea why. No, I'm sorry, no idea why it doesn't work, but the idea is that you put your mouse in a point of interest and then the delineate catchment, it creates automatically the concerning catchment area, and it shows you in this small windows here, the catchment size, and it shows you also the main river length. Now it works. It's very slow, but it's working. I don't know if related to the internet connection, but yeah, you should check it out afterwards of the presentation. Yeah, now, okay, it's running now. So this is the first aspect we need for the calculation of peak flow, to have the information about the catchment area. Let's wait just a couple seconds more. Okay. So you see the catchment area, which is defined as 52 kilometers square, and it also defines the main river length, about 12 kilometer, the main river in this area. Yeah, the other aspects, we have the slope, soil type, land cover. We will check that out afterwards. So I'm asking you if you like, until the next, it's like the homework for the next learning journey. Check it out, please, and then come back with your first impressions. Share with us your impressions. And then we'll go on with the other aspects, the parameters define the peak flows. You see, it's a very easy tool, and it has to be an easy tool because most of us aren't absolutely experts hydrologists, and we cannot spend weeks or even months to define peak flows. We have to use a simple tool, and sure, we lose a little bit precision, but in normal case, it's enough to go on working for the hazard mapping.
Georg,
yeah.
Just because you were talking about the catchment area, and I have a question in the chat. What is a catchment area? Can you define it?
Okay. Yes. Imagine you were here. This is where you are standing in the channel of your interest, and each raindrop falling from the sky that reaches you as you are standing on the the riverbed, this rainfall will touch you. Maybe it will take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but if a raindrop is falling outside of this yellow area, the raindrop will follow goes to another river or channel. But every raindrop falling within this area will follow his path, go to an affluent or a stream, and will reach you. So this is the short explanation of catchment. Is that okay, or should I try to explain it with other words?
It seems that it's okay. I've seen an okay, and you see the thumbs up as well. Yeah.
Are there
thanks, Georg.
other questions?
Georg, just to be clear, this Augur, we will have a look at this at the next webinar with you, which will be not the next one, but after the next one for the hazard assessment floods. we will have a bit a closer look and maybe even a bit exercise on the Augur. Is that planned like that? Did I understand you? Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, this is planned like that.
Okay.
I put you the link to Augur in the chat, so you can use it whenever you want.
Okay, thanks a lot.
This is the end of this learning journey. I would like to give the opportunity to Andrea. Andrea, are you still here? And maybe you would like to give us some introduction about your learning journey you will do about satellite data and drones.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm still here. Yeah, so I think in 2 weeks from now, it's going to be my turn to talk to you about satellite imagery or drones, respectively, the type of data that you have seen now in the tools that Georg showed you that are in the background that make us recognize the Earth or recognize where we are or that location. Yeah, and I hope I'll try to give you an overview without making it too complicated, but I hope that whatever I'll be showing you will help you to better understand what is being presented to you or what you need to ask for should you need this kind of data one day. And if you have other suggestions or things that you would like me to explain, please write an email to me, any of us, whoever email you have, and I'm sure it will end up with me.
Thank you, Andrea. Tony, I will handle to you to finish the learning journey.
Okay, thanks a lot, Georg, for this very informative and illustrative introduction into hazard assessment. Of course, it was an introduction. Hello. And you always, you know, for an introduction, you always want to provide more information, but I think it gave a very good overview. And thanks, Andrea, for your... and also thanks, Andrea, for your outlook. And I just wanted to say that Andrea, just also to present her, she has a Master of Science in Geographic Information Systems and Remote Sensing and has extensive experience in aerial data acquisition, processing, and analyzing. So you will be the perfect person to instruct us in 2 weeks' time for the next webinar of this learning journey. And you might have noted, if you go to the chat, that I have pasted the link to our evaluation format. Please copy it, fill it out, and send it in. And I promise it will not take much of your time, and it helps us for the preparation of further learning events. I hope that you found this webinar as enriching as I have, and that despite the glitches at the beginning, that you really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday, 22nd March for the next webinar. If there are no more hands, I don't think so, and we're 7 minutes over. So it's bye for now and have a nice day.